So, this is our author and illustrator project from 307. I'm Hannah.
Paige.
I'm Tyler.
And our author was Barbara Park. So, she was remembered as one of the funniest authors in children's literature, mostly because she wrote Junie B. Jones. She was probably my most favorite character reading in my childhood. Just funny, imperfectionist, and just went every day living her best. Another book that she wrote regarding kind of just kids and growing up and kind of dealing with life was Almost Starting Skinny Bones. My favorite quote from this book was actually at the end, when Alex kind of figured out who he is should be most important and not really care what anyone else thinks. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to be satisfied just being me. And that kind of also relates to me because I'm also trying to figure out what I want to be as a teacher and how to treat others and kind of not care what everyone else thinks. So that kind of had a good impression on me. She went to University of Alabama to get a degree in teaching, to be a high school teacher. She lived in Arizona with her husband Richard, and her family was very important to her. She had 2 sons, and at the beginning of the time of death, she had 2 grandsons. Unfortunately, she died in November 2013 at age 66 from ovarian cancer, which was kind of unfortunate. And then she spent over 180 weeks on the New York Times.
Since she had been diagnosed with ovarian cancer, she decided to start her own nonprofit to support those who needed funding for their cancer treatments as well. So she started Sisters in Survival, and it's specifically for those who have ovarian cancer and can't afford their treatments. After she died, her sons had taken over the program and were helping her lead it.
Like I mentioned before, she's the writer of Junie B. Jones. She immediately just thought of this and was just having so much fun with it. She never really knew if the author or the readers loved Junie B. Jones because of her imperfections or because just how Junie was in the stories, but they were hilarious. And I feel like every kid could relate to her. I definitely did growing up. I think she mentioned that the hardest part was writing with Junie B. Jones was thinking of more ideas to continue the series, but she definitely loved writing this.
Another book she wrote was Ma, There's Nothing to Do Here, which was her picture book for her grandsons. She wrote it to kind of talk about what they do in the womb and to go over some pictures she put. The kid is just sitting there pushing and stretching against the uterus because he just wants out so bad, and she just thought it was kind of cool to think about what they would think about in the womb.
So this is Mick Hart was here. This is the book we decided to spotlight. This was my personal favorite book because I like the way that it brings light to death and triumph at a young age. I think it teaches kids about the struggles of death, about the struggles of just hard times, and that there truly is no perfect way to cope, no perfect way to grieve. This is a quote from Barbara Park about Mick Hart was here. After I wrote Mick Hart was here, I knew that this book would always have a special place in my heart. The story is fictional, but I would have loved to have known both Mick and his sister Phoebe. Also, the bike helmet issue discussed in the book is extraordinarily important to me. This is a passage that I found most useful. It happens to come from the last paragraph of the book. The stick was just the perfect size too, small enough to do a neat job, but still strong enough to carve the letters deep into the concrete so they would be there forever. That's what's so great about cement, you know, the forever part. I mean, I was totally calm when I did it. I just walked over, bent down, and printed the letters, large and neat and clear as they could be. Mick Hart was here. I stood up and looked at it. I smiled. Mick Hart was here, but now he's gone. But for 12 years and 5 months, my brother was one of the neatest kids you'd ever want to meet, and I just want to tell you about him. That's all. I just thought you ought to know. I think that's just like perfect way of a 13-year-old girl just coping with death and just accepting the fact that her brother's gone, but seeing the positives of it and just moving on and just living in his legacy.